Hey, everybody.
Hi, guys. Well, from the poisonous air of Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
podcast.
I'm Frank.
And I'm Dan.
Coming up today, the ethics of dying. It's something that comes up on the podcast.
Every
And
so often.
Every so often, and we have a kind of a different angle on it this time.
Yeah, we'll
A new way that we're going to be thinking
chatting
about it. And maybe not a new angle. Nobody's going to be shocked or surprised by what we say.
No.
You'll be very Frank and Dan.
Well, I'll try and shock them. I'll say something totally out of character.
Just horrible, awful things.
Prepare yourself, everybody. Something scary and awful is coming out of my mouth. In the bottom half of our show.
Oh.
At the end. Towards the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But before that, what do you got?
Well, it's the beginning of a year, but it's also a year just recently ended.
That's true. Both of those two things tend to go concurrently.
And there is a need for people in the media, a need for the media itself to declare things at the end of a year.
They'll declare,
they
list.
like to look back. They have lists. They like to call people out for this is the best this of the year. This is the best that of the year.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
Well, Esquire has named its best dressed man of the year.
Oh, sure.
Pope Francis.
Are you kidding? No. And I'll tell you why no. Because Pope Benedict was the one who was in all the Gucci footwear.
And that's exactly their point, is that he's taken something that has always been about the opulence and about the ornamentation and the
Sure.
everything you just mentioned,
The
Gucci,
fanciness.
the Prada, right. And he's taken it and he's done something very simple and very clean, and there's an elegance to his manner of dress as the Pope.
See,
personally, I just think they're jumping on the Pope Francis bandwagon.
Right.
But
simplicity is so hot right now.
well, and they have a picture of him looking very, very well sort of groomed.
He's a dapper fellow.
Yeah,
for an older gentleman who's decked out in dresses and slippers.
Yeah. But yeah, the all the jewelry and the cape, the fur-lined capes.
Yeah.
The Prada shoes, the red Prada shoes. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he eschews all of it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like just his modest approach to life. There should be modest apartment, owning his own car.
Yeah.
Paying for a hotel room himself.
I'm thinking that the fashion industry needs to embrace that. There needs to be a shoe company called Esquires. That's really stupid. Yeah.
And yet I'm laughing.
Well, I mean, you're right that obviously it's just jumping on the Pope Francis, the Fran wagon.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You got to think Pope fashion is one of those things that only one guy gets to do.
Yeah.
In the whole world.
Yeah.
It's like a uniform for one. Let's change our uniforms, me. I'm going to change it up.
Yeah. I mean, it's based off of
what?
I don't know.
It's based off of somebody designed a crazy hat one day.
Let me pull up the.
Come on.
Let me look at it.
You gotta love the Pope's. I mean, just the headgear alone.
Yeah, but he doesn't wear the big crazy hat. He wears more just sort of the little
yarmulke,
cap,
the little kippa,
the little white cap that covers his head.
Right.
And then he's got a single cross, and then everything else he has the priest collar thing on underneath everything.
Sure,
but his is all just white.
Yeah.
Just white.
And white is the
new
black.
He looks like he's ready to go to the temple. he could be.
He's a Jew trying to get into the temple. With the kippah and the.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what he is. Anyway. Well, there you go. I don't know. Popery. Potpourri. I'll take potpourri for $1,000.
Smells of popes.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
All the questions will be about.
You don't want the Benedict potpourri.
No. He was fussy. He probably smelled okay.
He was fussy, but he
I
was
would
also
guess this Pope probably a little bit more BO than in recent years.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, he's got that whole affinity for the poor thing and stuff. Maybe he's not worried about it. Yeah, you know what? Pope Benedict, it was probably a very masculine smell.
Sure, yeah.
It's woody and
musky.
Musky.
Yeah.
Whereas this Pope, maybe
leather
for Benedict. Yeah. All of those tones. This Pope, I'm going to say, if he comes out with his potpourri, you're going to be looking at, some lavender tones.
Yes.
You're going to be looking at some, it's mostly floral.
Some cumin.
But it's clean, so maybe almost a citrus.
Oh, you're going all clean.
You think he does the clean, he's got clean lines in his clothing. He keeps it all very simple. I think he likes a really just gentle smell.
Wood polish.
Lemon pledge.
It
smells like his potpourri.
Because he cleans his apartment himself. So he smells like wood pledge and Lysol. Right? His hands always smell of bleach.
It's not good. It's like going to grandma's house.
Yeah.
There's just something. Yeah. It's like the cleaning products of yesteryear.
Yeah, except my grandma, there was always the cigarette smell mixed in.
Ooh, yeah.
Which I still I walk into a house where people smoke in it, and it's like, oh, Grandma.
Oh, Grandma.
Nobody does that anymore,
This
Grandma.
smells awful, Grandma. All right. Well,
she was kind of at the end of that, where people still smoked in their house, where grandmas smoked.
Right. Well, there you go.
I guess a lot of grandmas probably still smoke.
Probably do.
Probably a lot of our listeners have grandmothers who smoke.
Right. Or our grandmothers who smoke.
That's possible too.
Yeah.
In fact, that's the one I would prefer.
And shame on you, smoking grannies out there.
Smoking grannies.
Actually, you know what? Not shame on you. Start a club.
I'd say good for you.
Yes.
Throwing caution to the wind.
Yeah. I mean, actually, if
you're a granny and you're smoking,
then go for it.
Yeah.
Like if you start in your 70s and it takes, most people 30 years for the cancer to set in.
Won't your lungs and your whole system in general just be that much weaker though?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll kill you. You won't get cancer.
You'll
just
have all that
collapse.
Tar holding everything together, right?
Who knows? Maybe it will preserve you. You don't know. I have not seen studies about this. Anyway, these are all very bad theories. This is all poor advice, and don't ever take our advice on anything.
Yeah, I think that's the best piece of advice you could give.
Right? Yes, indeed. I want to go to Jerusalem and tell a tale of Jew on Jew prejudice.
Okay.
Unfortunately, so the reason I bring this up, I was not aware that in Jerusalem, Orthodoxy reigns so supreme that it was only recently that non-Orthodox rabbis got any government funding.
Oh.
The Israeli government gives money to various rabbis around.
Okay.
And they fund them, but until now they've all been Orthodox.
Okay.
So only now have Reform and conservative rabbis.
So government subsidized rabbis.
Right. Well, that's been going on since there's been a Jerusalem.
Wow, I did not know that.
But Jerusalem, since there's been an Israel, but Israel has only ever recognized Orthodox rabbis.
Okay, all right.
So I had no idea that there was this whole Orthodox only view in Israel. But apparently, it's taken this long for the Israeli government to acknowledge non-Orthodox Judaism. I found that fascinating.
Interesting. Huh.
So there were all these...
They must have gotten there first.
All these uppity reform rabbis angrily petitioning for fairness.
Is there pushback?
There has been pushback. They've been fighting this fight for a while, trying to get equality. And in fairness, it only went to 4 rabbis. Five rabbis, five non-Orthodox rabbis got this money.
Okay.
But it just goes to it's just weird to me.
Yeah.
You would think that they would embrace Judaism as a whole. We'll be pro-Jew. But no, they're pro
all kinds of Jew.
their Jewishness and not other Jews.
My Jewishness is better than your Jewishness.
My Jewish God
Can beat up
my
your Jewish
my
God.
Yahweh, my Adonai is more better than yours.
This sounds typical.
Of course, it's typical. It's exactly what happens.
Sounds like human nature once religion is involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
yeah, even the Jews are anti-Jew, apparently. Just the other kind of Jew.
I don't know if that's the way to say it. Is that the way to say it?
They're anti-Semites. Israel is so anti-Semitic.
I don't think
If it's the
true.
other kind of Semitic.
I don't think that's true.
It certainly seems true.
Well, I mean, there are gay people who are homophobic.
There are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Internalized, if nothing
Right.
else.
Right. Self-loathing gays.
Yeah.
So sad.
It doesn't sound like that's what this is.
No.
But anyways.
But I mean, I just found that fascinating that, like, they were so much favoring orthodoxy over non, which is why, all of those, you see all of the unreligious, all of the workarounds for technology that they can't use on Shabbat and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which I just thought which in our country, the bulk of Jews don't worry about. And there's this sort of fringe element that freaks out about all of these crazy rules.
Yeah.
But apparently like normal human people are the fringe element in Israel.
Blowing my mind, Dan.
Boom, baby. Blown.
Well, I want to go to Los Angeles.
Ooh.
Where Los Angeles County is facing a potential battle over a proposal coming from the county commission or board of supervisors who want to add, mind you, a Christian cross to the official government seal.
Great.
Yeah, especially considering that back in the 80s, I think it was, I guess about 10 years ago, actually, they decided to remove the cross that was there. In 2004, they removed the cross.
So this
was already placed on the seal.
This is a cross that has historical significance.
Oh yeah. Then there's a lot of different symbolism on the county seal. Of course, you have a square, and you have sort of the masonry symbols. Those are there.
Yeah.
You have something that looks like an oil derrick, is what I'm going to assume.
Okay.
You have sort of a Spanish-looking frigate.
Okay. like a ship,
a big sailing ship.
Sure.
Because like Sir Francis Drake, didn't he? No, he sailed for England, didn't he?
Yes.
Who? Well, there were a lot. All the Spanish missions and all that kind of crap were. So somebody's Spanish.
Ships.
Were there. Ships. There's shark. There's a shark. There's a cow. There's what looks like a black and white rainbow. 2 stars.
How
cross.
big is this fucking seal?
There's a lot.
Wait, I gotta see
have
this
pushed
thing.
a lot of symbols on
shooting.
here. And who is this, do you think? Who's the figure?
That's probably Saint Francis.
No, it seems to be a female, right? And she's carrying like wheat.
I don't know. That's
And she's standing at some shore with mountains behind her.
That's Mrs. Angeles.
she's one of the angels.
Yeah. She's got the halo, so she's a saint.
She could be
the patron saint of the Western United States.
I'm thinking she's holding something. I don't know. But anyways, there's this cross over the black and white rainbow.
Right. Maybe it's Santa Barbara.
It could be Santa Barbara. Who knows? I don't know what was there when the cross wasn't there.
Right.
I'm assuming probably just an additional star, because that would kind of just fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they have, let's see.
You should have just kept naming things that were on it. Just make stuff up. There's a cow. There's a shark. There's a
Well, a cow and a shark sound fairly made
sounds
up. A shark
made up.
sounds made up.
Which is why you could throw in other things. There's a giraffe. There's
there's the San Diego Zoo.
there's a tomato patch. There's a cloud and a monkey and 400 shrimp. I don't know.
David Hasselhoff.
Sure, yeah. He would make more sense, actually, for current LA County. Put Hoff on there.
Yeah,
you know
why
what?
not?
Let's start a campaign.
Yeah.
Get Hoff on the seal.
Take the cross off. Take off cross. Put on Hoff.
Right. Yeah, cross off.
Hoff on.
On Hoff. Hop on pop. Wait, what?
You're confusing everything, Dan.
Yeah.
Anyway, supervisors Michael D. Antonovich and Don Knabe want to see it restored. So they are arguing that the current design so it's the seal of the San Gabriel mission.
No.
Can't have all that crap on it. I don't know what they're talking about. But anyways, the building has a cross, is what they're saying.
That's crazy.
Is that rainbow thing supposed to be a mission? I don't think so. It more likely be the Hollywood Bowl, to be honest.
That's what it is. It's the Hollywood.
Anyway, so but yeah, I mean they took it off obviously to avoid legal issues, and now you have yahoos wanting to put it back on as some sort of fuck you.
Well,
so
there you go.
So I thought I would just let people know about that.
Well, yes, thank you for that. We needed that. Hooray.
Dan's distracted.
I am a little distracted. I'm sorry. No, I think put the cross back on. That's great. Just invite a lawsuit is the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just basically like, "Hey,
let's spend money.
Right.
Let's spend government money."
Right now, there's a cross being taken down in San Diego. We better get another lawsuit going.
Woohoo!
Yeah, these are the continuing battles that have already been won and decided, but that it's like you're on a battleground and all of your army has been killed, and you look at the opposing army. And you pull out your sword and say, "Attack!" Like when? At what point do you admit defeat?
They're not going to.
It's the fucking Constitution.
Yeah, but they'll keep pushing back.
It's such a.
They'll keep pushing back, Dan.
They will until Well, there you go. At least then there's fodder for a podcast, and that's what we need. Well, I am looking forward to 2014.
Are you?
Can I tell you why?
Why?
Movies.
Really? Oh, I love movies.
It's the film. This year is going to be
There's a good
great.
lineup coming out of Hollywood this year?
It's kind of extraordinary.
Really? Okay.
How it's.
Oh, I want to hear what
RNS. I think this is the
Religious News Service.
Right, has pronounced it the year of the Bible, and with good reason. Not because hooray for the Bible. But because, holy shit, they're making so many movies about the Bible. And these are not small-time Kirk Cameron movies.
Okay.
So the first one kind of is small-time. But you remember that Roma Downey and her Christian husband, who was a reality TV producer, they made the Bible series on the History Channel, which you and I pledged to watch and then never watched any of.
Do you still have it recorded?
I don't know. Andrea may have deleted it, but we could go back and look.
We could find it somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah. I don't really want to watch it.
So I bet it's good for a laugh.
But here's what they're going to do. They're going to take footage from that series and partnered with 20th Century Fox, they will create Son of God, a film about Jesus' life. Because it broke records. The series broke records in terms of viewership, so they're just going to capitalize on that.
All right, okay.
It'll be coming out. It'll come out like February. That's the first one. The rest all come out at the end of the year. Well, not all of them. Most of them
just
come
in time for the Oscars.
And
Oscar nominations
and Christmas,
Christmas,
I think was the idea. Anyway, so we've already talked about the Noah picture that's coming out, the Darren Aronofsky Noah movie,
which I'm actually intrigued by. I want to see that damn thing.
Yeah,
Aronofsky.
I'm curious.
Like, I don't always love his stuff, but I always want to see it because he's always intriguing and doing something weird.
Right, and for me, the thought I would love to make a movie about Noah because I would love to because the challenge of making the Noah story into an actual film.
Well, it's what to do with all those damn animals.
Well, no, the animals I don't even worry about. The challenge is how could I possibly make this story even slightly believable? Like, what twists and turns would I have to add into this where if we're actually imagining the story as a fully realized, as a thing that actually could have happened, what would have to, I just think about little things like, there were other people who owned boats. Why weren't they okay? Plenty of people own boats.
Yeah.
Fishermen.
Yeah.
With boats. And he's the only one. And why is Noah the only one that survived?
Well, he had a big boat. He had all those other guys were getting turned over.
Tossed and turned?
Yeah, they couldn't they couldn't.
They needed the ballast
sail.
of elephants.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to make it realistic, it would also, the big boat would have to be thrown away. He would be able to save 2 cows and a couple dogs, like he really wouldn't be able to save all the animals. Well, that's like the first most.
Anyway, it'll be fascinating to see
beyond the whole world being covered with water.
Right.
The entire planet.
Yeah. And at what point, I also want to see the moment where the water level has been rising steadily. And how long does it take to rise, up so that mountaintops are the only things, so that mountaintops are covered?
Oh, I know.
I'm just imagining, like at what point do the villagers look around them?
Or the village people,
sure.
There's a wide cast of characters.
Sure. At what point does the guy in the policeman outfit turn to the guy in the Indian outfit and go, this isn't stopping. Yeah. This is up to our chests now.
Yeah.
I just wanted, how do you drown in a slow flood? Like, if it's a flash flood and it comes whooshing over you, yeah, you drown. But, when it's up to your, waist, don't you start making other plans?
Well, but it doesn't matter. They could run for the hills, but sooner or later, the hills are going to be covered.
I'm saying boats.
You think they all have boats?
I think somebody survived in a boat.
Here's the deal. They're out there, for 40 days? Right?
Yeah. Although
all the other people starved on their boats. That's what happened.
No, they have plenty of room for food. They don't have 1 million animals on their boat. I'm wondering how all these animals survived on Noah's boat. He had to have room for animals and food for all the animals and for him and his family.
Yeah.
Well, what you do is you take an extra couple cows because then you got some food. Don't let them see what you do to their friends.
No.
But
that's always the rule.
Anyway, so there's Noah. That's coming in November. Heaven is for Real. Sony Pictures is releasing. This is a Greg Kinnear film with Thomas Hayden Church and Kelly Riley.
Sounds good.
Based on a, quote, true story about a little kid who dies. And then comes back. They resuscitate him, but he was dead for a minute, and now he knows things.
Oh, no.
He saw Grandpa in the other life.
Oh, no.
And he knows, and he saw heaven.
He saw dead people.
I see dead people. No, played by Haley Joel Osment.
I saw dead
people. Yeah. I saw a trailer for that one and was not thrilled. It looked really stupid.
Okay.
But Greg Kinnear, it's got star power. It's Sony Pictures. These are not small films. This is what I'm getting at.
Right.
And then we get to Exodus, which is apparently Ridley Scott.
What?
Who is making a film that's basically the 10 Commandments. I guess.
They are pushing back, folks.
Holy shit. Christian Bale will be Moses? What the hell's happening? I tell you what's happening. All the Jews in Hollywood smelled the money that was pouring in from these Christians and was like, why not? Yeah. Absolutely. And Mary, Mother of God. Lionsgate's going to be releasing Mary, Mother of God with a cast that includes... So this is basically a prequel to The Passion of the Christ.
Is What's His Bucket directing it again?
No, I don't think he is.
He's given up the franchise.
Yeah, although I tried to look it up and couldn't.
What's his name?
You're talking about Gibson.
Gibson.
Yeah,
he's not.
I don't think so. I don't think he gets to do stuff anymore. But apparently, this one was funded by people like Osteen. I think Joel Osteen was one of the guys that funded it.
Yeah, he could fund a small country probably.
Yeah, exactly. But the late Peter O'Toole will be in it. One Mr.
How did they do that?
Sir Ben King. He came back to life.
He was resurrected just for the movie.
Yeah. No, he just barely died.
Joel Osteen. He's amazing.
Yeah, he is. Sir Ben Kingsley, Julia Ormond. I mean,
but they're bringing a lot of people back from the dead.
Jesus Christ, that sounds like a good movie. Mary, Mother of God, that sounds like a good movie.
Ben Kingsley, he will take any role.
Yeah, well, he's made that clear.
Yeah.
You have to pay him $1 million and he will take any role.
Is that the rule?
I think he said that at one point. At one point he said, you pay me $1 million and I'll just take your role. But I mean, all of these movies, these are big movies.
Huh.
Christian Bale as Moses to me is the weirdest casting possible.
Yeah.
I hope he plays it like Batman.
I hope he plays it like Charlton Heston.
He does his best Heston impression.
Oh yeah, I mean he's the original. It's his whole performance is an homage to Heston.
That's up there. He doesn't even try to play Moses. He just tries to play Heston playing Moses.
That's fantastic.
Let my people go.
He could do it.
I'm Batman. I'm Moses.
All right.
Pharaoh, you will let my people go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
Scary Moses.
Yeah, I like it. I like Gotham Moses. Anyway, there you go. Right. Movies to look forward to.
Yeah. I want to turn to Malaysia, where Islamic authorities have seized Christian Bibles.
Oh.
Because they are using the word Allah for God. As they have always done, apparently, in Malaysia.
Really?
Yes. The Christian minority has a tradition of referring to God as Allah.
In the Malay language? Is this
in the...
What language are these Bibles in?
I believe so. Yes.
Huh.
In Malay.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, maybe, I mean, in that language, maybe that's the only word they have left for God or whatever.
Yeah, I know. It's the country's national language.
Yeah. That's fascinating,
and,
though.
they are forbidden.
And now
because our God is called
it's
Allah.
called Allah. You can't.
Your God is called something else.
I don't know what your God is. Call your God.
That's our special name for God.
That's right. Oh gosh, it's Yahweh or the highway, you guys.
Well, yeah,
that is crazy.
It's absolutely nutty. But yeah, I mean, this is Malaysia. They've had some problems between religious groups.
Grumpy.
They're
just grumpy.
Why are Muslims? I hate to make such generic comments and like this, but why are they just dicks like that?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
they seem to have their own special brand of dickishness.
Well, there are Quranic verses that are like, basically, and thou shalt be a dick unto those who aren't believers like we are. I mean, I don't think that's a direct translation. I think that might be a paraphrasing.
The word that you translated as dick can also be translated to...
but I mean, it does... I mean,
not very nice.
The Quran is not famous for being a tolerant book.
Yeah, that's true.
It's more a us versus them sort of book.
Yeah.
So I think that may have something to do with it.
So, yeah. 2 copies of... this photo has 2 copies of the Bible.
Oh.
The Bap Kudus Boru.
Well, that doesn't mean anything.
The Bab Kudus Baru. Or the Al-Kitab Barika Bike. They just made this stuff up. Why not just make up a new name for... I mean, I don't get it. Like, I don't know. But
it is,
there's also a tradition in other countries where throughout... this is not like the only place where the non-Islamic populations use the word Allah for God because it's Arabic.
Right.
And so if you have in an Arabic speaking country,
right,
such I would assume probably like Jordan, where they're pluralistic, they have, Christians that they live comfortably with. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I would absolutely assume
that they would use the word Allah.
That they would use Allah.
It makes sense.
That's
it just
the
means
Arabic
God.
word for God.
Yeah. Yeah. But then again, you get you get the Muslims coming into our country, and they don't use the word God.
No, they also, instead of saying like peace be upon him, half the time they say some Arabic phrase.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Languages and words. That's all we're talking about. Just words.
Yeah.
But it's a big deal.
This sound that I make is more important than the sound that you make.
And you can't have my sound.
No.
You can't have that.
I want somebody needs to like Santorum the shit out of Allah.
Oh God. Someone would get fatwad. You don't want that jihad. Trust me. You don't want that fatwa.
No, you don't.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, there's been a sad death in Manhattan. A philanthropist, really? one of the biggest giver to the Catholic diocese.
Really?
In Manhattan has died.
What is the diocese going to do now? Has he left his fortune to them?
No, and I'll tell you why. He was a gay atheist.
Really? Okay.
He was a hedge fund founder. He founded a hedge fund, became, obviously obscenely wealthy.
Was he hot?
Well, the only picture I have of him is when he was clearly in his 90s.
Oh, okay.
So
probably not hot.
Oh, sorry, late 80s.
So not hot is what you're saying.
I'm just saying, like, he could go to the gym. That's all I'm saying.
A little flabby.
He's just a little. He just seems like weak.
That's
just
bad.
Bulk up a bit.
That's too bad. And he's dead, I guess.
And he's also dead, which tends to deteriorate hotness. You lose a little hotness when you die.
Well,
for most people. God.
That's
anyway,
arguable.
Anyway, yeah. So he's donated about $600 million to causes.
Holy crap!
All over.
Seriously, he was a billionaire.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he and he donated to things like the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, etc. But he also donated to Roman Catholic education. Strangely.
Oh, it's like their school system.
Yeah.
Catholic schools.
Yeah.
Not a terrible.
No, I mean,
honest,
you could do worse.
If the ones in New York, which I assume is where he probably gave the money, right?
And who knows?
If they're like the ones here, I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of God involved, but they're the schools here in Salt Lake that I'd want my kid at if I had a kid.
I just love, I love the fact that he was their largest donor, and he didn't give a shit about their God.
That's amazing. And they took the money.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's been a lot of that in the news lately about organizations not taking the money because it's an atheist giving it to them, or not taking the volunteer hours because it's atheists showing up.
Here's a delightful little exchange. So the guy's name, by the way, I don't think I said, Robert W. Wilson is his name.
Okay.
Mr. Wilson. He apparently was talking to the cardinal of the diocese, and the cardinal said, well, now that you've given all this money to our schools, I should try to convert you. And Mr. Wilson, he recalled saying back, well, Cardinal, if you do, I suppose I should try to convert you. The only problem is that if I succeed, you'll lose your job.
Oh,
that's cute.
That is cute. So he was nice.
Yeah.
Huh. I think there's a lesson in there somewhere, Dan.
Yeah. Another interesting quote from him. One of the dumbest things you can do with your money, he said in an interview in 1979, is spend it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
he clearly was never in the position of like needing groceries. like food didn't even register on his dial as being money spent.
Well, I assume that he probably meant like after your needs were met.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I thought that was an interesting take on the world.
Huh. All right. He was probably a little bit of a miser.
Well, yeah,
except in his life.
Except that, yeah, in his life, and then
give it away.
Give
it away. Give the extra away,
which I like.
I do like that.
I think that's
doing it to good causes.
Yeah, I mean, if you're
that obscenely wealthy,
and if you are that obscenely wealthy, give some of it to us.
Yeah, that's not going
to our show.
Dan. Sadly,
I know.
We
would do good things with it, though.
Oh, I would take the best trips. My vacations would just be amazing.
Quiet. No. We would do things for the show, and yeah.
My house would just be decked out.
You say that, but you never got those inflatable Santas up in front of your house.
No, I never did. I feel slightly bad about that.
I
got a new dog instead in the month of December.
You did get a little.
And that ended up costing me a little bit more than I thought it was all going to cost, because a stupid little dog got into chocolate at one point.
Oh, he did?
So there was an emergency vet visit. And, there's just stuff you have to buy for a new dog.
Yep.
And so...
You didn't buy your new dog an inflatable Santa?
I did not.
That's what you needed to do.
I think he would have spent the entire month just barking at it if I had. Because he's turned into a barker.
I would have spent the entire month barking at it, probably. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. But next year, I'm thinking. Next year, I've been thinking maybe a whole, like, one of those light show things. Just deck the house out with a little...
ambitious.
We get a little local FM transponder thing so that you can, like, play music
and
out
have
to the cars.
Have it dance to the music.
And then have it dance to the music. And
that's
what I want.
Flashing
the house isn't big enough for that, sadly.
No.
It'd be the smallest house anybody's ever done that to.
Well, set records for smallest house that's decked out ridiculously stupidly.
No, that's the one over.
You've seen the one. That's right. There's one right over here. Anyway, if you guys want to contact us, you don't have any more stories, do you?
No,
we're done.
No.
Okay,
no.
So if you guys want to contact us, you can contact us, or you can write to us at podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or go to facebook.com/TGIAtheist.
Right.
Like us. Send us messages.
Sure.
Receive messages all week.
Yeah.
The stuff will show up in your feed.
All of the interesting
Mackenzie
things.
posts all throughout the week. And
then everybody comments. There's a conversation that happens there.
Yeah.
Which we can't do with you because you're not here.
No.
If you came here, we could do that, but you're not here.
Or if you want to get your voice involved.
Oh yeah.
Dan, how do they do that?
Well, you can call us. You can get your voice on the show with a voicemail.
Voice, people.
You can leave a voicemail, keep it under a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And the way to do that is to call 424-666-8442.
That's correct. Well, we're going to take a quick break. And during this break, we're going to listen to some Glenn Beck.
Oh, we
saying some...
And usually when we listen to Glenn Beck, we hear the most hateful vitriol.
Oh.
And
hateful?
He's pretty hateful sometimes.
Hateful?
Yeah.
All right.
But this time, it's different.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Do you know what happened last week in Russia? One of their biggest stars on television said that homosexuals should be put into the ovens alive. I didn't think you could make the Holocaust worse, but he's like, why the gas chamber? That seems a little too humane. Let's put them alive in the ovens. I said on the air this week, I will stand with GLAAD. I will stand with anybody who will stand up and say, that's crazy, that's dangerous, that's heterofascism. That's what that is. And we're talking about Duck Dynasty? Really? Really?
Really? Really, Glenn Beck? Now you're suddenly like Mr. Pro-Gay standing next to GLAAD, arm in arm.
Yeah.
It took the Russians to get you onto this. You couldn't jump onto this bandwagon until the Russians started pissing you off.
Well, God works in mysterious ways, Dan.
And so does Beck. Beck works in mysterious ways. Holy crap.
Well, the problem with anybody who, and I mean, I our libertarian listeners, I love you. But the one thing is you can never predict what a libertarian is going to say.
Yeah.
You just can't.
No.
Like the rest of the world is like, if you're sort of on the normal spectrum of politics, right? You're a normal American politically minded person.
Sure.
They just blow your mind because they come out of like these radically conservative people will be like, oh, I'm fine with gay marriage.
Right.
And you're like,
you know what needs to happen? Bill Cosby needs to do a show about libertarians.
Libertarians say the darndest things.
Just, you see, we're going to talk to Mr. Jones, who has a big funny thing that he likes to say about gays.
So dumb.
What about the gays who put the Jello pudding into? Anyway, sorry.
Really, you went for the Jello pudding?
I don't think you can. I think there's a law about doing a Cosby impression without saying Jello pudding.
All right,
Pretty sure.
wow, okay,
Anyway,
interesting.
We did get
Glenn Beck.
some correspondence this year. It is this year. This is
Yay!
the first correspondence of the year.
Wow.
I know.
What an honor.
2014.
2014. I'm going to hold to the 2000.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll say 2014. We'll just call it 14. I'm going to call it the 14.
We're finally in a group of numbers that we can call something. Smaller group of numbers. We can call it the teens.
Right.
I mean, we were in the 13, but now we're actually into it.
We're well entrenched in the teens.
We're into the teens.
The teens. Anyway,
Because tens doesn't work.
No.
Sadly, we haven't had a good name for a decade in 14 years.
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah. So thank God for that. Anyway, Mark wrote to us. He said, hello, I support marriage equality, but I have a problem with the way Utah did marriage equality, and here's why you should too.
Oh, okay.
Oh, getting a little uppity with us there, Mark.
Tell me why I should have a problem with
He
it.
said, one federal judge making a ruling does not help get social buy-in. In fact, it does the opposite. Just look at Roe v. Wade. This is also the reason why I fail to see how this is monumental. You got one Obama-appointed judge to make a ruling under equal protection, hardly the most solid ground to stand on when you want to redefine what a lot of people view as sacred. I dislike, he says in parentheses, I dislike the principle of marriage and wish to see the whole construction of marriage replaced by the use of contract law. It's a business relationship, nothing more, nothing less from the law's perspective.
Huh. Do we have a libertarian listener, perhaps?
Mark, what'd you say about marriage and the judges and the activists?
Okay.
That's not going to get old for me. It'll get old for all of you
I'm afraid.
Long before it gets old for me.
What can happen with that?
Anyway.
But
thanks for writing, Mark.
Yeah.
I here's the thing. This was always going to be decided by judges.
Well, for the more conservative parts of the country.
I think that the only way that this works is by judges because, I think he's wrong. I think this does get buy-in. In the immediate, it doesn't.
Right.
In the immediate, everybody, all of the conservatives and the religious people butt up against it and they don't like it. But in the long term, what it shows, basically what it does is it gets the conversation happening in a new way. Yeah. And I'll tell you what happened.
Tell me what happened.
Andrea and I,
as you point your finger at me.
Andrea and I were in Chubby's eating some Mexican food
eatery just down the street,
and we overheard a conversation happening between some older people.
Oh,
and one of them was talking fairly, and it was about this whole gay marriage thing, and he was saying, you know what? And, the way he was talking was, one of them was, you could tell that there were still vestiges of the old thinking, because he kept saying,
right.
I'll tell you, I have sympathy for those people, and blah, blah, blah.
Well, how nice.
Yeah, and, those people seemed a little, but...
Sympathy seems a little,
But what he was saying was, you know what? It's fairness. and they should be treated fairly.
Wow.
And the people that he was talking to were kind of cocking their heads and like processing what was happening. But you know what? That conversation, for my money, was amazeballs.
And it's happening because gay marriage is currently legal in Utah.
Right. And the other thing is that people need to see gay marriage happen and notice that nothing bad has occurred.
Changed. Their marriage is still intact.
Because
their church isn't being forced to perform gay marriages.
Right. And as long as, it's a concept, it's not, they can demonize the shit out of it.
Yeah.
But once it becomes a reality and it just becomes normal,
then apathy kicks in or kicks in.
Right. And nobody cares anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't agree with you, Mark, but
yeah, and also just
I see your point.
I see the point, but at the same time, it's a very different issue than abortion.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, abortion. I mean, there are definitely arguments, social justice arguments for free access to abortion.
Yeah.
Right. Unhindered access.
But no one can claim
work.
that someone's dying because of gay marriage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no one can claim that someone's going to be committing a new and awful sin because of gay marriage. As a matter of fact,
it's just a sin that's already happening.
It's already happening, and now they can't. Now it's like promiscuity is going down in their minds once they process all of this.
Yeah.
or whatever.
I had this moment this morning where I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, wait a second. Churches always want people to be married. They don't want sex outside the bounds of marriage. Right?
Yeah.
So does this actually end up 10 years down the road causing some real problems for more sort of not super conservative, but just your more like right now, religious groups that are opposed to gay marriage? Do they come around on the issue? Do they come around on the issue because ultimately it's marriage? And so now they just say, well, gay people, before you have sex, get married.
Right, because that'll work. That's the unintended consequence here is that gay people are going to start going back to church. Like churches are going to start accepting them, and then gay people are going to go to church.
And it was always such an easy way out of the Mormon church.
Oh yeah,
it was
or any church, Catholic church, same thing.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. But the Mormons, any group that it's like, well, we don't like the homosexuals and homosexuals are damned and blah blah blah. That's, as a gay man, that's pretty easy to get your head out of.
Right.
I mean, not for everybody, but for the vast majority of gay people, it seems like it was a wonderful way to just get out of a really conservative religion.
Well, I've said before, one of the ways that I got my head out of it was the gay issue. I'm not gay, but I sat there and looked at all my gay friends and was like, these guys aren't choosing this.
Right.
This isn't. Why would God make them like guys?
Yeah.
And then tell them that they're not allowed to.
Yeah.
That don't make no kind of sense.
Yeah.
And then we're done.
And you have a lot of gay friends.
I have a lot of gay friends.
There are few straight men in this world
who have as many gay friends. It's true. I love the gays. I don't love the gays. I just love my gays. I've got my friends. And I love all of my friends, and many of them happen to be gay. Anywho.
Most.
Yeah, most. Yeah, sure. We'll go with most. We had Don wrote in to us. He said, "Hi guys, I'm a new listener to your podcast, and I love it, which is the right thing to do.
Thanks.
Congrats for loving our show." Anyway, he says, "I do have one thing. Your podcast on polygamy. In your podcast on polygamy, you stated having no real objection to what consenting adults do in their own time. I disagree with the idea that young women in polygamous societies can really give consent, even if they are 18. They are being pressured into a situation that is unnatural for the benefit of older men. There are two reasons I believe this. One, the group is always older men and women of descending ages. It's never a woman at the center with multiple men, or a man taking a younger man into the group. Second, this also happens in non-polygamous society. The older man takes a beautiful younger bride to replace the older ex. And what is that new wife called? A trophy wife, because she's a reward for the man being successful and wealthy. Blah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, he goes on, but that's the general idea.
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean, the truth, but here's the distinction that he's not making, and the distinction that I make, which is what's legal and what's correct or moral.
Right.
And he's not talking. So, I mean, yes, within the tiny little polygamist enclaves in this country, the ones in Utah, the ones in Texas, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, there's this huge, tremendous societal, like cultural pressure for young women to marry nasty old men.
Right.
But that's just that.
Right. And that should be broken up.
And that should be broken up. And the thing is that one of the reasons...
And when we say, that we don't have any problem with polygamy amongst consenting adults, that is not the situation we're talking about.
Right. And
we're talking about... And here's the thing. If as a society you don't have a problem with that, and it comes more out into the open, then you're able to break up the bad situations more easily.
Right.
In my mind.
You're able to enforce the
actual
not marrying 14-year-olds and that sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Although in Utah, I think 14 is still legal with parent permission.
Ew, gross.
At very least 16 is. Anyway, none of that should be legal. But here's the other thing. In all religions, there's cultural pressure within the religion to do a whole bunch of crap.
Unsavory things.
Stupid, awful shit. Things like giving up coffee. That should be illegal to ask people to do that. But there's nothing we can do about that. If you're buying into the religion, you're buying into the religion. And until we eradicate religion, which we're not going to do anytime soon, there are going to be things that we don't like about religious pressures.
Exactly.
But we can't do anything about that. What we can say is, if consenting adults want to enter into any kind of contractual marriage, and you're saying that doesn't happen, well, it doesn't happen because it's not legal now. But, I mean, if a man wants to marry 10 other men, if a woman wants to marry, 6 men and a woman, it doesn't matter. Like, as long as they're all adults, they're all entering into it willingly, I don't give a shit.
Right.
And I don't know why it's any of my business.
Right.
So there you go.
Yeah, I know.
We had some voicemails, didn't we, Frank?
We did. That's true.
What do we got?
We have... Well, let me pull them up. Where are they? Let's listen to the first one from Jillian.
Okay.
Hey, Frank and Dan. This is Jillian. You guys are awesome. I love the show. I'm calling to give a shout out to other first-generation atheists. I am out to my very Christian family, but it has not been, the easiest of roads. And it's very hard to be in that position sometimes to not have anyone, I'm really close with my family, and so to not be able to come and talk to them about something that's very important and very big part of my life is very odd to deal with sometimes. And what I wanted to kind of ask you about was, I am really close with my mom. We're really good friends, but it's really hard to reconcile my feelings about her sometimes because she's extremely smart, intelligent, capable woman who believes in silly delusions and hasn't, in all of her 50 years or so, hasn't come to the conclusion that I came to within, 20 years, that it's all just a silly story and not based in reality. And I don't know, sometimes it just makes me really at the least baffled and at the most just kind of angry and stupefied by the whole situation. So I just kind of have to, I get to a boiling point where I just kind of have to go, you know what, let it go, you'll never understand. So I love her, and it's still, it's fine, we have a fine relationship, but I wanted to know if you guys have any advice on that topic. I'm sure there's many others, since we're all kind of in the generation that's sort of coming out, if there's any other thoughts you have for those going through the same type of thing. So keep doing what you're doing. Thanks so much, and I'll keep listening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, thanks, Jillian.
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
It is.
It's not easy.
It feels weird to look at someone that you love and respect and have them tell you that they have opinions or that they have beliefs that you can't respect.
Right.
But that's, you know what? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do. I mean, you could go Bogosian on her.
You try to deconvert her.
Read Bogosian's book, Manual for Creating Atheists, and see if. But the truth is that converting people is a good way to piss them off.
Well, not if you successfully convert them.
Well,
then they're going to be thankful,
right,
that you had those series of conversations with them.
And that's why we say look at Bogosian's book and don't just dive into
because he has a methodology that I can see it working.
I mean, well, and if it doesn't work, then back off and and let it marinate in their brains and whatever. Yeah. But I mean, if it doesn't work, all you've done is asked them questions.
Exactly, and that's why his approach is genius.
Right. So
is that there's not a lot of asserting things. You're just helping them process their own worldviews.
So that's important.
Yeah.
It's
so there's that, but I don't know that really satisfies what I feel like Jillian is really asking, how do you maintain that relationship? How do you, because like for me, I hate to say it, but I really don't.
Right.
Right. Like we talk on the phone, but we talk about, because they live, in Oklahoma, but we end up talking about everything but.
Right. You just avoid that conversation.
There are two topics. They're just completely avoided because that's how my parents have set it up. And that's basically the terms that they've established.
And you don't want to push that.
And I don't push it.
That's
one way.
But in a lot of relationships, there are certain topics that you're going to hit impasse on. The other thing is to just take interest in what's important to your mother and try and drill down to the parts where you find common ground.
Right.
Drill down to, because, when I talk to my father-in-law, who is very, very religious, we have found moments where I can say, I really like a lot of what Jesus taught. And he loves that.
Well, of course he does. He probably bears his testimony.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's kind of silly about that. But I mean, we can have that discussion, and when we talk about more controversial stuff, when we talk about how he's very politically conservative, and so he doesn't want his money going, his tax dollars going to help the freeloaders, and I invoke Jesus in those moments, and I say, you know what, I guess it's more important to me that someone is fed than it is that someone else might be mooching,
right?
And so that's just how I am, and as long as your boundaries are clear, and when they say something like, well, they try and foist Jesus on you, and you. As long as you say, well, that part doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not someone who believes in Jesus as a prophet.
Right.
But I like a lot of what he has to say. As long as you put your boundaries down clearly, not in any rude way, but as long as your boundaries are clear, you can have these conversations.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. Ish. It's a tough thing.
What you get is ish. You get ish. That's what we have to offer you.
But you know your mom, and you know what you're able to, the conversations that you can have with your own parents.
Right. And their belief is really, in the end, just sort of trappings.
Yeah.
You can still love the person. You can still have a fun time with the person. And if you have to avoid that conversation sometimes, or if you have to have a really tough conversation sometimes, it's worth it. It's your mom.
Yeah.
Have the tough conversations and then get back to just loving each other and having a good time.
Yeah. And don't let the silliness bother you.
Yep.
Just get past. You just have to find a way to get past it.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, if you have a relationship with a believer, they're a believer.
Yeah.
And there's silliness involved in
that.
And
if that's what you're focused on, then you're focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Just focus on your having a good time with them and your love for them and all that sort of thing. Anyway.
Agreed. Okay. Cool. And then we have another one. This one comes to us from Matt.
Hey, Frank and Dan, it's Matt from North Carolina. Imagine my surprise when I hear my hometown of Barberton, Ohio mentioned talking about the Faith Gym. I have been to Faith Gym. I actually really like it when I go to visit. It's very much cheaper than the YMCA to go, and it actually is an old Lutheran church, I believe. Some Protestant church folded, and the building was just sitting there, so this guy bought it up and turned it into a gym. Where the altar used to be is a big bench press squat rack. In the basement, there's a man cave where you can do all your deadlifts and powerlifting, and up in the upper choir area, you can do all your cardio up there. It's a really cool area. You know, you should check it out if you're ever in Barberton, but if you're in Barberton, you should be wondering what's going wrong with your life. Love the podcast. Keep it up. Thanks. Bye.
Oh, Barberton.
People doing squats where the pulpit, the podium is pretty amazing.
Sure. Do your abs in the apps.
Oh,
see what I just did there? See what I did there?
That's funny.
It is fun to just sort of. Thanks for giving us the layout, Matt, because that's just fun to imagine.
Yes.
Well, okay, so we are going to talk about a girl in Oakland.
Yeah,
a little girl. I mean, or is she a little girl? She's not a former little girl, I guess. Is the crux of the problem?
Well, I see what you're saying. Because she's still alive.
Because she's.
Well, let's tell the story.
Yeah.
13-year-old Jahi McMath. Jahi. Is that how we're saying it?
I guess so. Jahi.
Yeah, Jahi McMath.
Which sounds like, you know, an Indian family who married into Scottish. I don't know.
Perhaps. I don't know.
Just Jahi. I've never heard that name before.
Yeah. Anyways, she went in for a tonsillectomy, and when she came out of the operation, right?
Right.
But then she started having some internal bleeding.
She was hemorrhaging
in her nose and mouth, and bleeding heavily from the nose and mouth, and went into cardiac arrest. And then the doctors declared her brain dead 3 days later.
Right.
And at that point, the hospital, under typical sort of scenario, gives the family a moment before like removing the ventilator and sort of allowing the body to die. They give the family just a however long they need,
and then they unplug.
Yep. But the family's fighting the unplugging in this scenario.
Indeed.
They feel that there's still some activity, that her grandmother, in one specific story that's told, a witness in sort of this whole thing, said that he witnessed the grandmother, the daughter responding to the grandmother's voice and touch.
But what's more important to them is that if there's a heartbeat, their Christian religion tells them that person is alive.
Exactly.
So unplugging is killing somebody.
Killing their daughter who is alive.
Who is alive in their minds.
In a vegetative state.
Because the heart is still beating.
Right. And not even vegetative state. Vegetative state suggests far more activity than what she has. Her brainstem is dead. Her brain is dead.
Yeah, she's dead.
There's no
according
activity.
to the vast majority of the medical establishment, she's dead.
Right.
Now there are dissenters in this, including a
Dr. Paul Byrne,
a pediatrician. Yeah, Dr. Byrne's a pediatrician who apparently is the go-to witness on this sort of thing.
Oh, really?
Because he's not from there. He's not. They've hauled him in.
Oh, from Ohio.
To say that he thinks that brain deadness is not deadness. Brain death does not equal death. So we got ourselves, a Terry Schiavo type situation, only backwards. Or rather, it's the family against the hospital instead of family versus family.
Yeah, because in the Terry Schiavo case, the husband was like, "Let's let her go,"
right?
And the family, for whatever reason, I don't remember all the details, was saying, "No." She responds again to voice and touch. But the thing about Terry Schiavo is pulling out the ventilator with Terry. Her heart she didn't have complete, not as much brain was dead as this girl,
right?
And so if you pulled out the ventilator, her heart would still keep going. She'd keep breathing on her own. and it was literally letting her starve to death. Was in the Terry Schiavo case. If I remember how, I don't know all the details of that one, but nonetheless, that one was you could go, okay, well, I guess I can see how that scenario would play on the sympathies of the family more, right? It's a starving to death thing, right? Mm-hmm. Even though their daughter was gone,
it still feels horrific.
It still feels awful, right?
Yeah. But this is just literally, you turn off the machine and she just goes.
She goes. It's minutes, right?
So
this has led us to, that's enough of that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
led us to ask ourselves some questions.
This is just the jumping off point for us, because we started talking about death as a concept and about hospitalization and about making these tough decisions.
Right.
And I think the idea, first of all, you have to sympathize with people,
right,
who are losing a loved one. That's always it's obviously tragic. In this case, it is unexpected. Well, the youth of the girl is devastating.
Right. And if there was hope that she could actually recover in any way, you could see how on any level, right? Like, okay, she's going to be, in a largely vegetative state, but she'll be able to respond to you, blah, 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 blah. You could see, how, still a tragic outcome, but you could see how the family would want to hold on to that.
I guess. Right? It's such a tough level, thing.
Right?
Here's what
it's when there's absolutely no chance of survival.
Yeah. So one of the questions I want to ask right up front is this. Is there a scenario that you can imagine where atheists, where people or non-believers, people who don't have a religion, would act the way this family is acting? I wonder, are there atheists who would feel like they can't let that person just die? It's such an emotional thing.
I would say more than anything, I kind of even wonder if this family needed religion to be in this position. Like, the religion gives them their out. It gives them the mechanism. It gives them the argument.
Yeah.
But they would have fought that moment on whatever grounds they could have, right? Like, they are not ready to accept that their daughter has died.
It's just so
for whatever reasons.
Or it could be the opposite. It could be that if they hadn't had religion, they could have let go way sooner and started the healing process.
You could argue that.
As it stands, they are prolonging this process and making it. Now they've got it
harder for themselves.
Now they've got a legal battle on top of losing their child. They've got a legal battle that they have to go through. This is awful.
Because ultimately, there's no suffering for this girl.
In
a sense, you don't even have to worry about when the Terry Schiavo case, there was a sense of it, but like with this one, there's no suffering. Right. There's no brain to feel the pain.
Or process the pain. Or anything. Yeah.
There's just nothing there. And so it's really, it's their lack of ability to deal with it. And where that comes from, it's hard to say. You're right. There probably is some their worldview, their religious whatever. That's what's, you can't separate that out.
It's
obviously that's a part
them.
of it.
I feel like they're trapped in this.
I do wonder
sensibility.
if it's, So anyways, can I think of one where an atheist family would have that? Yeah.
Does that
one where they have not. The thing is, though, that I have a hard time thinking that an atheist family would be able to find an argument that would be able to trick up the hospital,
right?
Because that's the thing. The hospital now is like dealing with this religious issue,
right?
Then they're trying to figure out how to deal with it. When their policies are normally just, you've had your time.
She's gone. I'm sorry. Take whatever time you want.
Ethical, because that was also something in this whole thing that jumped out at me, was that they ethically can't continue to give her care.
Right. Because there's money being spent now.
Yeah.
Keeping her heart beating, keeping blood pumping through this body.
Right.
the family is probably not paying for it, or who ends up paying for that? And one doesn't want to take monetary concerns into account, but that's where the ethics of the hospital come into play, is that somebody's paying for something, and a bed is being taken up,
right?
And hospitals have to have policies so that, you know, that take all of the things into account, that take the emotions of the family into account, but also take they have to take financial things into account.
Well, and I think, but even beyond there, I'm sure there's a consideration for the patient herself in this case.
Well, she can't feel anything.
It's not about, in my mind, it wouldn't even be about the pain or non-pain. It's that this body, this person is done.
Right.
Now it's time to move on.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm sure that like somebody at that hospital is considering that like you are now just providing medical care for someone who's not even there.
For a shell.
And that seems like you're saying, it's definitely a waste of resources. You know, your doctors, your nurses are focusing on someone who has no...
Right. You're sending a nurse into a room
to bathe,
to take care of...
Well, nurses don't really bathe, but an orderly and...
Yeah.
It doesn't... But anyways, we're getting bogged down in the details of this thing rather than...
So,
you know, I mean, our conversation beforehand, I think we were bringing up some interesting...
I think one of the things that I immediately went to was my dad's death.
Mm-hmm.
My dad had a prolonged... he had a traumatic experience. He was severely burned, and was in the hospital for about 6 months before he passed away. And they kept having to do more and more extreme therapies to try and fix problems that kept cropping up.
Right. One thing would lead to the next.
Right. Your body is when your body sustains that much trauma, it's much more susceptible to other things. You get infections, you get bed sores, you get all of these things.
If a system goes into partial failure or whatever, it causes problems on other systems.
Right.
And
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, and the entire way, I got to be the guy who they had to ask, hey, what do we do next?
Right.
Do we continue to try to save him? And the thing is that there's a man there who sometimes was completely out of it, who wasn't capable of talking, who wasn't processing anything, and then sometimes was totally like present and there.
Right. And that's what like.
And I had to make that decision. How
long to the end, or when the end finally came? When was the last time you had sort of seen your father? Right. When was the last time he had been present?
We had a conversation a couple weeks before that.
Okay.
And then he went into some sort of shock and
never woke up from that.
Right. So it was about a week or two after the last conversation that I could have.
But you were saying earlier that you now wish that you had cut it off earlier.
Yeah, I do.
Don't you think that's a hindsight?
Absolutely. But here's the thing. I do have new information. I heard a thing on NPR recently about doctors who were asked if they were in the hospital, how far would they want their care pushed?
Right.
Would they want chest compressions to try and restart their heart? Would they want X, Y, and Z? Would they want intubation for this, that, and the other? And they largely said no. They were all like, no, I don't want that. They've seen their patients. They know that the prognosis is grim.
Right.
And they don't want it. And I thought to myself, if the doctors don't want it, I'd look at what my dad went through. The last 6 months of his life were a nightmare.
Yeah.
It was just hell for 6 months, and then he died. And then I look at the quality of his life that he would have had he been able to pull through all of that stuff, which I now realize he wouldn't. He was never going to pull through. I don't know. I mean, you just hold out this hope. It's this person that you love, and the doctors don't speak frankly to you. That's the other thing. The doctors just tell you, well, if we do this, he stands a chance of that. They don't say words like, you should let him go. I mean, not even you should, but like, they'll never say,
if it was my father.
If it was my father, they won't answer that question. And they won't, and they don't say, they always just are trying. They're trying to be protective of your feelings, but what they're really doing is just not really informing you of where things are. They're giving you a sense that like it's going to be a hard slog, and if he makes it through this, then we've got to go to X, Y, and Z, and that's going to be really tough too, and all of this is going to be hard.
Right.
But they don't say this is not worth it. This is probably not worth it. Anyway, the point becomes that you.
But the problem is, you're sitting there trying to figure out you're trying to get yourself to trust your feeling. Probably is my guess of what you know your father would have wanted or not wanted.
Yeah,
that you know rationally that your dad would not have wanted to be in a vegetative state or in a in a total 100% care facility for the rest of his life. Right. But at the same time, if only like a week or two prior to the final decision, you had a moment with him.
Yeah.
When you don't give that up.
No, it's
terrifying, don't, right?
It's not even terrifying. There's a man, there's a human being that you can talk to.
Did he ever express any wishes? Did he have anything in writing?
No. Now, my mom has been very clear. She doesn't want to be resuscitated. She doesn't want to be intubated. She doesn't want a food tube. Like, if there's a situation in which those are options, she just wants to go.
When did she express that? Before or after?
She started to express it before, but it wasn't as clear. Now that my dad, and she and my dad were divorced, but they were still friends, and she was still here for a lot of it. And now that we've all been through the trauma of my dad, she was like, okay, we're going to talk about all of these things. I'm going to be specific.
Right.
So yeah, she is specific about that and very clear. And
that's good.
The thing is that we did have this conversation before the stuff with my dad, and I fought her on it. I was like, Mom, if it's just one little thing, you'll be fine.
Right.
And whatever, Mom. And now I think, okay, I get it.
Right.
I finally get it.
Right.
So it's a tricky one. This is
the problem is, if you don't have that kind of information from the person, right, you have to deal with the fact of did we let him go too soon?
Right.
Was there a chance? Was there a chance of him having, 5 decent years? Maybe they weren't going to be like how he was living, but 5 decent years where he can still read his books and he can get around. Maybe he's in a wheelchair or something. You know what I mean? But like, people live fulfilling lives in those kind of situations.
Sure. And the other thing, the thing is that there's no good scenario here.
No.
You don't, whatever choice you make, you can second guess for the rest of your life if you want to. If you keep them alive and they actually survive, you can second guess their lifestyle for the rest of your life and see, maybe they would have been better off to just have died then.
Yeah, but they could tell you, thank you for keeping me alive, which would relieve you of any of that.
In my scenario, where my father will, as it turns out, no therapy could have helped my father.
Right.
Now, if I had made the choice to let him go, or much, much earlier, I probably would be questioning that. Now, I probably would be saying, what if he could have survived?
Right.
And the fact that I didn't make that choice and that I made the choice to try and keep him alive, now I get to second guess that question.
Yeah.
There's no good way. There's no good. It's just going to be, you have a hard choice to make and you make it.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that's just shitty about life. And but it's like
that's been complicated by modern medicine,
right? Complicated by modern medicine,
and they gives you a sense of hope,
right? And here's the thing: at least for the religious people, they feel like they've bought into a system and they know the answers to a lot of these questions. So for these people, it may be a comfort to them that they don't have to think about the answer to this. They have to fight a battle now, but at very least, there's no choice to be made.
It's a battle to keep their daughter alive in their minds.
Right. It's a battle to hold to their convictions.
Right. Because there are always lessons that people can learn.
Yeah, or whatever.
Right.
Or
who knows why she needs to be in this hospital for the rest of her
right,
however many years.
But as long as God wants it,
yeah.
they'll fight for it. And they get to feel like that's the right answer, and they don't have to question it ever. Mm-hmm. And if they just stick to it all the way through, then even if they lose their daughter, even if they lose the battle, they can feel vindicated that they did the right thing.
Right. Because then it was the bad, evil hospital that killed her.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, I think in the end what we're getting at is that being an atheist is a complicated place to be. Because there aren't right answers all the time.
Yeah.
There's no wrong or right here.
Well, it's complicated in sort of this emotional sense. It's, I think that, I would hope that we're going to not get trapped into these other scenarios that complicate the lives of our
right. Well, at very least,
ones.
we can uncomplicate ourselves enough to know that, like, brain dead is dead.
Brain dead is dead,
and we can let go.
Just because another organ somewhere in the body is working,
right,
doesn't mean that the person's alive.
Right, and that person, the essence of humanness, the essence of personhood.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's not some spirit that's
houses
stuck
in the
there.
brain.
There's no chance for a miracle.
Right.
This child is not going to make a miraculous recovery.
Right. Praying. We know we can let go of the idea of praying accomplishing anything. We can let go of the idea of and we can just focus on the reality of the situation and the fact that there is a little girl who is gone, and there's a body that's remaining, and we can turn off the machine.
Right. And let her organs go to somebody else.
So in this case, we have the advantage. In the case of my dad, there's no advantage to anybody.
No.
You just get to deal.
Yeah. But like I said,
life is complexity.
Yeah.
And the truth is that I don't know that I would have gotten any more satisfaction from that process, any more joy or any less pain if I had been religious. I don't think that could have given me anything.
Well, what a cold heart, Dan.
Because religion is what makes you warm. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, listeners, what do you have to say about it, man? This is, I know that a lot of you have had experiences with stuff like this.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be easier as a believer? It's an interesting question. I don't think it would be easier as a believer.
I think it prolongs it. I think that the faith, like everything that I've ever seen with with Mormons, because that's my experience,
right?
With mourning and with dealing with death, is that all they do is they never face it, they never deal with it, they just push it off into these other places, because of this eternal soul that you're supposed to just completely 100% believe in,
right?
And that it's everybody moves on to a better place, right? And that's common for all faiths,
right?
Is that that moving on and being in a better place thing. And I don't know, like I think that atheism, I think facing it has its own unique comfort,
right?
I think that the cold hard reality of it, while the emotions are still tough and you miss the person and it's hurts,
right?
I think I have found comfort in the idea of people just being gone.
Yeah.
That's the human condition, and understanding it and appreciating it.
And letting go of the need for immortality.
Yeah.
We don't need it.
And letting go of that person.
And it doesn't exist anyway.
You keep the person in your heart.
Yeah.
And you try to keep their memory alive.
But that's their memory.
But that's their memory.
It's not them.
And
they're
if
gone.
you're true and honest with yourself, then, it's tough and it's sad. You miss the person for years and probably your whole life, depending on who it was who passed away. And
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, write to us if you have any questions about or thoughts about this. Podcast at thankgodimatheist.com is our email address.
Or you can leave us a voicemail at 424-666-8442.
Right. Or go on the Facebook page. This will be, this discussion will continue there.
All throughout the week.
Which is TGI, facebook.com/TGIAtheist. Thanks for joining us, everybody. You can also, don't forget that you can donate to the podcast and help us keep this going by going to thankgodimatheist.com and clicking on the donate button.
And of course, we like to thank Mackenzie for all of her hard work and helping us promote ourselves and on Facebook.
Thanks to the Red Rock Hot Club for the music.
And have a good week, everyone.
Have a good 2014.
Ooh, yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.